Hi there, my name is Sergei Sputnikov and welcome back to Ushanka Show, the place where we usually talk about life in the Soviet Union. But not today. A couple of days ago I made a video about Azov Battalion and today I'm gonna reply to some of your comments. And there were a lot of comments. As of tonight as I record this video, my Azov story had about 4,000 views, but 390 comments. Compare that to my rugs video, which is right now #1 on Ushanka Show, 45,000 views and 373 comments. So Azov video with 4,000 views already have more comments than my rugs video with 45,000 views. Very impressive. But before we begin, I would like to make a couple of remarks. First of all, I totally didn't want to make Azov's video. Like, I knew it'll be like sticking a dick in the wood chopper because that topic is so sensitive and no one really knows what's going on, and I'm no match to Russian propaganda. Those guys spend probably millions of dollars. They use thousands of bots and Russian trolls and Russian officials and Russian media to push this agenda about look at Azovs, they're neo-Nazis, that makes Ukrainian government Nazis, and so on. So I knew it's going to be ugly, but people were asking, so I made that video. And since the Russian propaganda did an excellent job explaining why symbols of Azov Battalion are so Nazi and it makes them neo-Nazi, I decided to have a different approach. And I searched in Ukrainian and Russian language what did Azov guys were saying about their symbols, what was the logic behind it, and that's what my video was based on. So that's so-called mental gymnastics that people accuse me of. But for the sake of the argument, let's put our emotions on the back burner and just imagine a group of these right-wing Ukrainian nationalists sitting somewhere, drinking, smoking, and discussing what kind of symbol we should have for our Azov battalion. And someone will be like, hey, how about we have this Nazi wolf's angle runic symbol? I really liked it because SS was using it. And everyone like, yeah, that's a great idea. And someone who wasn't drinking that much yet like, yeah, by the way, we don't want to look too Nazi, so how about we just use the mirrored version of that symbol? And everyone like, yeah, it sounds great. So everyone will understand we are neo-Nazis, but not everyone will understand because it will be a mirrored image. But then another Azov guy chimed in like, hey, I want to make sure that everyone still would understand that we are real neo-Nazis. So let's add the symbol of the black sun behind our wolf's angle. Then everybody knew for sure that we are Nazis. So when I look at it, it doesn't make sense why these people are so desperate to make not just one Nazi symbol, but two of them. Okay, I understand. What can be better than a cheeseburger is double cheeseburger, but in this case, it just doesn't make sense. Like, sounded like people were so desperate to send the message to the world that we are so Nazi. Which brings me to the first comment from David, and many other guys mentioned that black sun, and he's asking, and the black sun behind the SS. I don't know where's SS on the Azov label, but let's talk about black sun. Once again, like in Slavic culture, this is called kalavrat. It's ancient Slavic symbol, believe it or not. And when you know the name and you know Russian language, you can find a lot of interesting information about kalavrat, which is known in Germany as the Black Sun and has some ancient runic German probably roots. So here's, for example, Russian, not Ukrainian, Russian tattoo website. It's called empiretattoo.ru, and this whole page is dedicated to tattoos with kalavrat. So let's take a look. Tattoo kalavrat is traditional Slavic symbol having a shape of sun. It symbolizes the cycle and continuation of the flow of life and moving forward. Tattoo of kalavrat is universal. It looks good for men as well as women. Becoming a real, I don't know how to translate talisman, so it's like a good charm, lucky charm for its carrier, owner, protecting him from different bad events and bad time. Kalavrat tattoo generally signifies the strength and the wisdom. Внутреннее познание, so like exploring yourself from inside. Creativity, spirituality, education, connection with the higher light forces. Male and female energy. Then this website talks about different variations of the Kalavrat tattoo, and look at this one. It looks pretty much similar to the background of the Azov emblem. So in this case, they don't look at it as the black sun of Germany Nazi background. It's actually Slavic traditional good symbol. So as you see, if you have a little bit of a questioning attitude, knowledge of Russian and Ukrainian language, and basic Google search skills, you can find a lot of instant information that could provide a different angle looking at this black sun SS symbol. That suddenly it's not black sun, and suddenly it's not SS. But still, my personal opinion, that was a really bad idea to choose those symbols, and I don't know why people chose. I mean, there could be a lot of, from the basic yes, because they're Nazis, to they just had no idea what they're doing, and you can go all the way to conspiracy theories that someone on purpose offered these symbols because they knew how much damage it will do to the image of Ukraine and Ukrainian fighters. Alright, so next comment from Oscar Gonzalez. Wow, TBH. I don't know what TBH means. I watch almost all your videos and I will keep doing it, but the mental gymnastics displayed in this video are incredible. I guess nationality is often stronger than reality. So, once again, and I put this in the comment, if you don't know me, you shouldn't probably say anything about my nationality, because a lot of Ukrainians truly hate me because I'm not really Ukrainian. I'm very bad Ukrainian. Besides the fact that I'm Russian-speaking Ukrainian, I changed my first name. When I came to the United States, my Ukrainian passport for traveling abroad spelled my first name a Ukrainian way, Sergiy, Sergey. Of course, everyone in America would say Sergey. So I couldn't wait for 8 years till I got my opportunity to change my first name from Sergey to Russian Sergey. So when somebody says about nationality stronger than reality, I am not Ukrainian nationalist, not a little bit. My license plate in my car says Kiev, not Kyiv. I'm working very hard to say it the Ukrainian way, but as I said, I'm a bad Ukrainian, and I got a lot of flack from my people that live in Ukraine, from Ukrainians, because they don't like me either, just like Russians don't like me. Next comment from Overlord947. What about the crucifixion of native Russian civilians, burning them alive on stakes and crosses, mass graves from 2014, and it goes, the good list. But this is very important comment because, everyone is so focused on Nazi symbols, which, as I said, you can look at it as Nazi, or there's a different story behind every symbol. But this is what, if people do Nazi stuff like exterminating, torturing civilians just because they're native Russians, then of course there's no argument, they're Nazis. And I commented, so I don't know if you remember, there was a big story back in 2014 about this lady was telling the story how Ukrainian soldiers crucified a Russian little boy.
Мальчика на доске объявления распяли. Это я лично своими глазами видела. Кто видел, кто там был, тот знает.
Like it was huge. It was on the first channel of the Russian television. Like it was all over the Russia. Of course, people got super angry, and guess what? It turned out to be completely made-up story.
Вы жалеете об этой истории, что вы ее рассказали?
Да, я жалею. Потому что эта история обернулась в худшую сторону моей семьи. Если бы я знала, что так негативно повлияет на мою семью, я бы так, как остальные люди, я ничего не вижу, я ничего не знаю.
Later on, I'll provide links in the videos. Actually, a Russian journalist located that lady. She moved to Russia, and they interviewed her, and she admitted that nothing that happened. It was all made up. Now, think about it. How sick were those people who come up with that idea, filmed that idea, found that lady, convinced her, I don't know what they paid her to have that, and it was all made up.
Мы не видели, чтобы кого-то тут убивали, когда вошли эти... Они и так до этого хорошо все поубивали, всех, и разрушили сколько домов. Но этот момент мы такого не видели.
А вы были здесь в первый день?
Ну, когда приходили, мы потом приходили. Но таких фактов мы не слышали никогда. Другие факты есть. Вот их.
Now, who is Nazi in this case? But that story did its job. It angered so many Russians. And so many Russians went to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians just because of that story. And it was all made up. So, talking about who is Nazi.
Поругались эти, то они сразу вали свою Украину, тебя здесь никто не ждал.
Почему так?
Не знаю. Какой такой вот привзятый к ребенку, вот это.
And while we're on the topic of Russian propaganda, I must mention the fact that it looks like a lot of people familiar now with Azov, but they didn't know that Azov actually originally came from Azov Sea, and that's why the questions that came on my channel were, what do you think about Azov? So I replied, what's so interesting about Azov Sea? Then I had to correct, well, I'm talking about Azov Battalion or Azov Regiment. So that reminds me of a situation when a lot of Americans, when you say Corvette, they think about the car, not the original word Corvette that meant fast sailing ship. So similar here, we got Azov became automatically Azov Neo-Nazi Battalion, and no one think Azov Sea. That's how well Russian propaganda worked. Which makes me wonder how many people who know about Azov as Azov military regiment are aware of Wagner. And I'm not talking about a famous German composer who was one of the Hitler's favorites. I'm talking about ЧВК Wagner, or Military Private Company Wagner from Russia. Wagner Group, or ЧВК Wagner, was created in February 2014, and for a long time was rumored to be operated and ran by Yevgeny Prigozhin, so-called the cook of Putin's. And just recently, he admitted that he was the one who organized this private military company. And I said, but I doubt that Russian propaganda talked a lot about ЧВК Wagner. Don't you find it interesting that out of all the beautiful Russian or Slavic names like Vladimir, Vasily, Andrei, they picked Wagner? That's not really a Russian name. It definitely has a lot of associations with the famous German composer Wagner, who happened to be Hitler's favorite composer. But of course, if you pick the name Wagner for your organization, does it make it automatically Nazi or neo-Nazi? Of course not. But then you look at this photo of Dmitry Utkin, who is actual military leader of Wagner Group, and he has 3 very interesting tattoos. One looks like 2 lightning bolts. Probably he was an electrician, nothing to do with SS. And another one that shows his ranks. And then you got this eagle with swastika. But Russian propaganda, for some reason, don't find it anything Nazi in this guy. There were a lot of comments where people accused me of mental gymnastics when I was explaining the history behind the Azov symbols, and I didn't come up with that stuff. I actually did the research, and I presented what the Ukrainian side was saying, but how much mental gymnastics can you perform looking at SS symbol and the Nazi swastika and eagle tattooed on a person who is the leader of the Wagner military group of Russia? So you see what I mean? And when this horrible war is over, and Putin is dead or in prison, I'm totally fine with going with investigation and interviewing survivors, both from Azov and Wagner and the Russian government, all the decision makers, to see what was behind, who was Nazi, who was not, and then we can talk without any additional emotions. And before I finish, I want to quickly return to the topic of Finland's Air Force quietly dropping swastika symbol in 2020. There's a lot of comments from my Finnish viewers that Finnish swastika is not actually swastika. There's a little differences between what the Nazi Germany was using versus what Finland was using. But you see, Russian propaganda didn't care about Finland swastika until Finland decided to join NATO, and the floodgates open now. Nazis are everywhere. Did you know that the Finnish Air Force had the swastika on its official flag? They carry it through the streets on occasions and holidays. So just like with Azov, when someone pisses off Russia or fights Russia, punch them in the teeth, they will call you Nazi and will find the way. Okay, my friends, so after this video, we're going to return to our regular broadcasting and we're going to talk about life in the Soviet Union. So please, don't ask me questions anymore related to the events in Ukraine right now. I considered myself a long-time Soviet. Then I decided I'm just a citizen of planet Earth. But Putin aggressions made me Ukrainian nationalist again. So this is where I'm standing right now. So please, life about Soviet Union, I know a lot of first information and I will share with you. But we're going to close this topic and we're just going to pray, if you believe in God, that Ukraine will prevail and this horrible war will be over. Glory to Ukraine. Slava Ukraini. Goodbye.